I've wanted to level up the audio and video experience that you're receiving on my YouTube channel for quite some time. And I'm happy to say that I was finally able to do so. But I created this video to cover a few things that you may be interested in during the process. One of those things, given that I'm a CPA, is, what's the tax deductibility of all this stuff that I purchased? And so, for me and my business, it was 100% deductible for me, but for you, it may not. And I'll expand on that here later. I'm also going to let you know, if you're kind of like a geek like me, what I purchased, so that if you're trying to maybe recreate or replicate what I've done, you can, know what equipment I purchased and about how much it costs and what's required. I'll also share some things that I learned throughout the process. So things about the particular camera I purchased and how I thought, the certain hardware was going to integrate with the software, and I kind of ran into some hiccups along the way. So if any of those topics interest you, then continue on and watch this video. So first of all, if you're not familiar and it's your first time on the channel, my name is Navi Miraj. I'm a CPA that typically helps save viewers of my channel thousands of dollars in taxes. So I talk about different things like the S corporation, tax deductibility of equipment, like in this video, as well as hiring your children, all those type of things. And so in this video, I'm going to do that a little bit, but mainly this is going to be more of like a product review video, or which is not something I would normally do and most CPAs don't do. So with that said, let's kind of talk about what I opened the video up with, which was, is this equipment that I purchased tax deductible? So let me give you the general rule, because this stuff can get quite complicated really, really quickly. So here's the general rule. For small businesses, if you purchase a piece of equipment, in this instance, let's talk camera here, for $2,500 or less, then that is deductible. And what I mean by that is you can expense it in the same year that you purchase it. So I'm recording this video in 2021. I purchased this camera. It's less than $2,500. And so I'm able to expense that item on my tax return when I prepare my taxes. Now, let's say I was a professional, had like a huge camera. It was capable of doing, let's say, 4K. Well, actually, this camera is capable of 4K, but let's just say it had, a huge lens that I purchased, and that lens was $2,000 on its own or something like that. Anyway, the point of the matter is, if the camera that I purchased was over $2,500, then I couldn't what's called expense that item on my tax return. What I would have to do is capitalize that item and depreciate it over a period of years. So I don't want to expand too much on that, but basically what I mean by that is, like, if I purchased it and it's under $2,500, I expense it right away. If it's over $2,500, then I actually need to put that asset on the balance sheet of my business and then depreciate that asset over a period of years. So I don't get the tax deduction all at once. I do get to deduct it, but it's done over many years. Also, another thing about this is I mentioned at the onset of the video that it's 100% tax deductible for me. What I mean by that is, I only use this camera and microphone setup and everything I purchased for business. And so I 100% use it for business. But many of you perhaps use your camera or whatever equipment you're going to purchase maybe 30% for personal and 70% for business. So to give you an example, if I purchased a camera and that camera was $1,000 and I only use it 70% of the time for business, then I really should be taking a $700 tax deduction for that, even though the camera costs $1,000, because basically 30% of its value, in this scenario $300, is personal in nature, right? And so you can't expense personal items that you buy for yourself. So I'm going to create a separate video that really takes a deeper dive into the tax deductibility of things like computers and cameras or any equipment that you use in your business. And because it gets a little bit more complex than the high-level stuff that I just noted. But, I'll explain all the rules, and once that video is created, which it'll likely be done by the time you're watching this video, I'll have that in the description below if you're watching on YouTube, or if not, you can visit my website at navimirajcpa.com, or my YouTube channel, and you'll find it on there. So let's talk about the stuff that I purchased, because that to me is like the most interesting part of the video. At least it is for me, right? Maybe you've gotten all the value you wanted out of this video by learning about the tax deductibility. But if you're seeing this video and you're like, wow, you know, the video looks really nice and crisp and high definition and the audio sounds great and all that stuff, you know, what is Navi using to produce this video? So I'm going to start off by showing you the camera I bought. Well, the camera is actually being used right now, but I purchased the Sony ZV-1. If you do some research about this camera, you'll note that it's, you know, over the past year, it's gotten a lot of good reviews. It's what a lot of vloggers use, so like for handheld use. But I think it's great for even videos like this that I'm producing. So I purchased that camera after looking about 2 or 3 others, and that was the right one for me. It's small, it's compact, it has a low aperture, which is great, lets in a lot of light, and I love the fact that it can give you a blurry background in the back if you want it, or you can make the background crisp. Another great feature was what I just showed you. If you're someone who does product reviews and you hold your product up, it'll autofocus on the box or whatever you're holding up, and then when you take it away, it comes right back and focuses on my eyes. It actually detects my eyes and is able to track me if I move back and forth. So, you know, this camera really doesn't come with a lot out of the box. I think in the box you get a USB cable and a battery and a manual. That's really about it. So you do have to buy a memory card. You don't even get like a little tiny one to use and practice with, if you will. So the memory card that I bought was this Sandisk 128 gigabyte Extreme Pro. And so I went with this one because you can hold a ton of video on this. And number 2 is you don't really want to cheap out when it comes to the memory card in these things, because you want a name brand, right? You don't want to record an hour's worth of video and then lose that video, especially if you're using it, you know, for personal use and you're, you know, filming sometime on a honeymoon or a vacation, and next thing you know, your video is gone. You don't get to share those memories anymore. Also, the speed is important, right? When you're buying a camera like this that records video at 4K, you want to make sure that, you know, the speed at which this card operates is high. And so this one is up to 170 megabytes per second. You know, I'll share with you like a personal story. Is I actually used to work at a company named Circuit City back in the day, and these memory cards like were brand new at the time. Like digital cameras were brand new, and I know I'm really dating myself here, but some of you may not even know what Circuit City is. So real quick, Circuit City was basically Best Buy before there was a Best Buy. And so the point I wanted to make was back then they sold these memory cards in megabytes. And so a 128 megabyte card, it was like $1 per megabyte. It was sold for like $130. So, you know, technically this card, given that it's 128 gigabytes, would sell for thousands of dollars. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. So the next thing I purchased was the Elgato Cam Link 4K. So what this device does is, you know, the camera right out of the box allows you to USB stream, meaning like you can connect your USB cord to your laptop or desktop, and you could stream, I think, up to 720p quality from the camera, which is great. It's plenty good for probably what you're going to use it for. But what the Cam Link does is that now allows me to stream out of the Sony ZV-1 using an HDMI cable, and I plug that into a USB 3.0 port on my laptop, and you can do so on your laptop or desktop as well. And that will actually transmit 4K video right into my computer. And that's great for, you know, live streaming, or if you want to use it on Zoom calls or anything like that. You know, that's what really the Cam Link is used for. So I kind of hinted at it earlier. It's not really the most, you know, coolest box or anything, but I did also purchase a HDMI cable, right, for the Cam Link. By the way, for all these things that I'm mentioning, including the camera, I'm going to include links in the description below. So if you're like, man, this guy already figured it all out. He bought the camera. He bought all the accessories that he needed. He went through the process. I want to purchase that stuff too. I'm going to provide links in the description below, and you'll be able to see what all these things are. I was supposed to give you sort of a running total of what these things cost as I was going by. So let me just kind of play catch up real quick with you. So the camera retails for about $800. It's currently on sale as of the time of I'm recording this video at $700, but I kind of lucked out. I actually did buy it from Best Buy. They had an open box special on it, and ironically, I bought it online open box, so I didn't even go see the camera, although it had been opened up and all that stuff. And I got it for $580. So I thought that was a great, bargain, if you will, that I picked up. The memory cards, I mentioned before that they used to be $1 per megabyte. Well, that's obviously not the case anymore. You can pick up the 128 gigabyte card for about $30, and they even sell like 256 gigabyte cards for $60 or so. The Elgato Cam Link, that's one of the more expensive accessories that I bought with the camera. That is going to set you back a little over $100. Expect it to be about $105 to $115 or so. And the HDMI cable I just mentioned to you, that's like $10, so that's not a big deal. Now, the next thing that I had to purchase, and it's not really showing you much, but I bought a USB 3.0 hub for my laptop. I'm using a little bit older laptop, which only has one USB 3.0 port, and so in order to connect a lot of these different devices, I just needed to purchase a hub so I can have the Cam Link in there, as well as some other equipment that I use that requires USB 3.0. If you're buying or using a newer laptop or desktop, chances are all your USB ports are already USB 3.0, so you may not even need a hub or anything like that. So the next thing I purchased was the Rode VideoMicro, and so I just wanted to sort of, again, as I said at the beginning of the video, level up my audio experience. And so, this camera gets great reviews because the sort of built-in microphone is actually really good. But I wanted to take it just one step further. What this mic allows me to do is sort of just concentrate on me sort of directionally. And so what comes out of my mouth is what you hear, and typically you're not going to hear a lot of background noise, especially if it's coming from behind where the microphone is being faced right now. And this microphone mounts right onto sort of the hot shoe of the Sony ZV-1, and it's perfect for what I need. Just for reference, in case you're wondering just how far I'm sitting away from the camera right now, if I had to guess, I'm about 2 feet away from the camera, just a little bit over arm's length. And so a couple other things that I'm going to mention to you about what I purchased. The following items you may not actually need. Again, I forgot to tell you the price point on the Rode microphone. I think that ran me about $50. Now, because of the way I use the camera, I wanted to actually be able to power it with more than just the battery that comes with the Sony ZV-1. So it comes with a relatively small battery, but I, didn't want to run the risk of recording a video and maybe, let's say, I'm halfway through my thought process and then all of a sudden the battery runs out. So what I did is I purchased this AC adapter for the camera. Now, this is not a Sony branded item, and I don't think Sony really built the ZV-1 with the intention of having power supply through sort of AC power. But I purchased it, and it comes with what's called like a dummy battery. So let me explain this for you in case you don't know. First off, this is only $20. It's not a lot of money, but what a dummy battery is, it's kind of like this. Actually, this is exactly it. It plugs into the battery port of the Sony ZV-1, and then this plugs into another adapter that they give you, and you can plug that into the wall. So this is great for if you want to stream video. Let's say you're doing live video streams for an hour or so. You don't want to worry about the battery. You would use something like this. It's common in other cameras that you can get them in like your Canon cameras and things like that too. But again, I just kind of gave you the purpose for why I purchased it. Now, when I purchased this, I realized a couple things. Number one is, and here's where I might get a little technical and might share some pictures with you or some screen share with you if needed. But basically, Sony did something that's kind of a design flaw in my opinion. When you mount the camera to anything, it has a screw on the bottom of it for you to mount things to. What happens is it then blocks the door that comes out of the bottom of the camera to replace batteries and put AC adapters in it. So what happens is I did purchase a mount. It's not a flattering box, but like it's the SmallRig box, and maybe I'll share my screen and tell you exactly what it is, or maybe put a picture of it here. But it was the SmallRig cool Ballhead arm. And what this really does is I have basically you can't see it on camera, but off camera, there's a pole in front of my desk with my monitors out in front of me. And so this device attaches to that pole, and then the camera mounts right on top of it, which is great. But as I mentioned a moment ago, what I learned was, well, the door for the Sony ZV-1, you're not able to open it to take out the memory card or your battery if the camera is mounted to anything. So, I kind of went down the rabbit hole of, well, what do I do about this? So now, in addition to this SmallRig device, I also bought another thing from SmallRig called the SmallRig camera cage for the Sony ZV-1. So basically what this does, as you can probably see here, is it wraps around the camera and allows you to plug in or actually screw in a lot of different things. You probably wouldn't use this for normal use, but this would be for someone who uses it like more ruggedly, or wants to clamp it onto a bike or some sporting equipment, or they actually want to like add a whole bunch of different accessories to the camera and have one what's called rig. That's what this device is used for. But the reason why I'm even explaining all of this stuff is that a flaw, if you will, is, as I said, I don't think Sony designed the camera to be used with an external sort of power pack. And so what happens is the cable that comes out of the battery, the dummy battery, let me just show you that again. So when you put this in the bottom of the Sony ZV-1, and this cable on a lot of high-end cameras has a little slot on the bottom of the battery case that allows this wire to be tucked away, and you can close the battery door and everything's great. Well, the Sony ZV-1 doesn't do that. So when you use this and you try to close the door doesn't close all the way. Combine that with the fact that the screw hole for the bottom of to mount the camera with is located right here. It just creates a big issue. So what I did is I purchased this so that the wire can come out. The door will remain a little bit ajar, if you will. And then the SmallRig camera cage puts a large enough gap in between the bottom of the camera and where the SmallRig starts that I'm hoping that the cable can just come right out without an issue. And then another cool thing that the camera cage does, it actually, once you screw it to the Sony ZV-1, the body of the Sony ZV-1, what it allows you to do is connect different mounts on the bottom. So if this was where the original mount was, slide it over to the right and you'll have a lot more different holes to do that. So I don't know, maybe that didn't come out clear, but basically what I'm saying is if the mount is over here in this area and it's being blocked, the SmallRig device cage is going to provide more holes for you to use over here, like in the bottom area as well. Now, a couple quick things. The little mount that goes on the extension pole here was only 15 bucks. The camera cage was $35, but it's super high grade. It's all metal. It's not plastic or anything like that. So I think you should scoop it up. I think you might need it. Last thing is, I really need to up my game in terms of video editing software, and I use a PC, and I don't want to be fumbling with that stuff. So I purchased the Camtasia screen capture and video editing software. Now, this software normally costs around $250, and you can kind of see, like, there is a free trial that you can use that lasts for 30 days if you want to experiment with it. But it's really good. I found it to be fairly intuitive. I watched a couple of videos on YouTube that actually the maker of the Camtasia software puts out. It helped me enough to figure out what I needed to figure out. It does cost $250, but I actually did a Google search for like a coupon code, and I found one that reduced it down to $199. So that could save you $50, and hopefully you take advantage of that and save $50 to you. Now, if you're a Mac user, you might be able to use iMovie, which is like your built-in software, or I think it's Final Cut Pro that a lot of Mac users use, and you might not need Camtasia, but I feel like if you're a Windows user, Camtasia is probably the way to go. And the reason why I bring that up is because I was going to use another screen capture software, but it's not compatible with the Cam Link that I just mentioned. So one thing you might want to do is when you're trying to purchase software for your video editing and screen capture, make sure it's compatible with like 4K cameras or using the Cam Link, because some software specifically states that it does not work for these things. So if you're keeping track of all these prices, you know, if you were to purchase all this stuff on your own, it's probably going to cost you around $1,200. You know, for me, it cost a little bit less because I got the camera open box, and it was about $1,100 or so for me. Again, for me, because I use it 100% for business, then that's all tax deductible for me, which is great. For you, it might be slightly different if you use your camera for personal use. So let me just kind of explain now, if you're still with me on this video, why did I do all this stuff? So I purchased all this stuff really because, like I said, I wanted to level up my audio and video. But the reason why I did it was because I'm actually in the process of developing a course. And so in that course, I'm going to take you from knowing nothing about small business taxes, and I'm going to teach you everything that I know. But I'm going to do it in the way that you're accustomed to, meaning in a way that's very easy to understand, so that you can figure it out. You really don't need a CPA for a lot of this stuff. You know, and me being a CPA myself, I know that's kind of like, what are you talking about? But all I'm saying is if you find someone that can teach it to you in an easy and understandable manner, it'll take all the complexity out of it. So I'm going to teach you like how the S-Corp strategy can save you, you know, $8,000 or $9,000, how to hire your children in your business and get a tax deduction for them, how to save up to $50,000 in your retirement account in a single year. These are all things and really amazing tax strategies that you can be implementing in your business. So what I've done is I'm still developing that course, but you can go to my website. It's navimuradcpa.com/learn and sign up for a wait list. So I created a wait list. You just enter your name and your email address. And what will happen is once I'm ready to launch the course, I'm going to send out members who join the wait list and send you a pretty aggressive coupon code. Don't quote me on this. I don't know how much the coupon code will be for, but I would imagine it would be at least $100 off the cost of the course. So listen, guys, I really appreciate you. I know this is not my stereotypical video where I'm actually teaching you tax strategies. It's more of like a you know, review and like camera gear type setup. But I do appreciate you watching if you've lasted this long. Coming up here will be a video where I take a deeper dive into the tax deductibility of camera and how it works for you. I'll even teach you things like what happened if you had a camera that you use personally and then you decided to create a business. How does the tax deductibility of that work? And just a reminder, please don't forget to subscribe if you're getting value out of this video or the other videos that I produce. Subscribing means so much to me, so please do so. And I'll see you in the next video.